welcome back to another IELTS speaking lesson. Now we're going to be looking at idiomatic language and how you can use it in your IELTS speaking test naturally and effectively. You'll understand what idiomatic language is and how it is used. I'm going to show you some key idiomatic phrases that you can easily use in your IELTS speaking test. And also you'll be able to use them while sounding natural and confident. So what exactly is idiomatic language? Well, to sum it up, idiomatic language is a commonly used phrase which has an unclear meaning. So it's something that native English speakers say that seems like it has a completely different meaning to what they are talking about. Confused? Well, here are a few examples. Raining cats and dogs. Now, this doesn't actually mean that cats and dogs are raining and falling from the sky. It actually means that it's raining heavily. Let's take a look at another example. Over the moon. Now, this phrase actually means that someone is extremely happy. If you'd never heard this phrase before, it could be quite confusing. It's also important to note that in the IELTS speaking test, you must use idiomatic language in the correct place and accurately. So let's take a look at the band descriptors one more time. Now we're looking at the band descriptors for lexical resource, as that's where idiomatic language will score you extra marks. I've highlighted from band 7, 8 and 9 where idiomatic language is mentioned, and it is mentioned in all three of these band scores. That means that if you are aiming for a band score of 7 or higher, it's quite important that you include some idiomatic vocabulary or language. But once again, you need to use it naturally and accurately. If you don't use idiomatic language properly, it could actually lose you marks. Let's take a look at an example now. So here the student says, "I had such a terrible day. I really was over the moon about it." Now you may remember that over the moon means extremely happy. What the student wants to say is that she felt really bad, but instead she's used over the moon in the wrong place. This will actually lose her marks. Let's take a look at another example of idiomatic language used inappropriately. I'd love to be a pop singer, but my dreams are just a pie in the sky. Now, the phrase pie in the sky actually means something that will never happen, but it's really not a very common idiom that people use often these days. It's important that you use idioms that are native sounding and not too old-fashioned, because that will help you sound more like a confident native English speaker. So I'm going to show you 4 idioms that you can use very easily that will make you sound more confident and natural in your English speaking. Let's go to example 1. Off the top of my head. Without thinking too much about something. Now this is actually a great conversation filler or opener for when you want to buy some time to think about what you will say next. Let's see the example. Off the top of my head, action movies are probably my favourite type of films to watch. And on to example 2. Warm-hearted. This can easily be used to describe people, which I'm sure you will have to do in the IELTS speaking test. It means a very kind and caring person. Here is an example for you. My mum has always been supportive. She's always such a warm-hearted person. I think that warm-hearted is a really easy idiomatic phrase to use when discussing your family, And once again, I'm sure that you're going to have to describe your family in the IELTS speaking test. Let's see example 3, which is down the road. This can be used when you want to discuss your future plans. It means something you want to do later. Here is an example. Down the road, I'd like to marry and have 2 or 3 children. Let's see if I meet someone first. And the last example is cost an arm and a leg. And this can be used when you're talking about money. Again, a very common topic in the IELTS speaking test. So what does cost an arm and a leg actually mean? Well, it means something that is very expensive. Let's take a look at an example sentence. My friend wanted me to visit her in Jakarta, but the plane tickets cost an arm and a leg. I think that talking about things that are very expensive, or maybe things we want that are also expensive, is going to be easily added into our IELTS speaking test language. That's all for my 4 idiomatic phrases that you can generally use pretty much for any IELTS speaking test. I hope that you feel a bit more confident with your idiomatic language. Do practice using those 4 key phrases. See you in the next lesson.